Good morning. Good morning. How the devil are we doing this fine day? I can tell you we've already had the first guess on our mystery machine. O&K Wheel Shuffle. It's a fantastic guess. It's not even close to being right, but it's a fantastic guess. Good morning, everyone. Hope you're all fit and well. Just a very quick heads up, and I completely missed this yesterday. Obviously, we celebrated the fact that yesterday was Ken Hatcher's birthday. Turns out Lou Carney's birthday as well. Didn't know, wasn't aware, didn't wish her a happy birthday, so I'm doing it belatedly. Many happy returns, Lou, for yesterday. Who do we have here? Who do we have here? Dan Cullen's here. Morning, Dan. Morning, Mark. Morning to you, Dan. Andy Hare is here. Morning, Tuesday, people. Trust you are all full of grace. This audience is always full of grace, Andy, as you well know. Jim Turner's here. Mark Whiting is here. Gary Muirhead is here. And Chris Ford is here. We do have, what is it called? Is it a quorum? I think we have a quorum of people, which means we can crack on. Another hot guess on our mystery machine. No, it's not one of those either. In fact, I can tell you, it's not an O&K and it's not a Cabelco either. Just wanted to say that. I want to give you a quick heads up about today's after show chat. Yesterday afternoon, I was speaking to a guy in the States, and we were talking about how undervalued blue-collar workers are. And the example he gave me was a guy meeting a woman in a bar, because, that's how the Americans do their thing. They get to talking. She asks what he does for a living. If he's a doctor or a lawyer, the woman will instantly perceive him as successful. If, however, the man says he works in demolition or construction, she'll probably subconsciously see him as a manual worker and could well have a lower opinion of the guy. He might earn as much as the doctor or the lawyer. He might have as fancy a car, but he is seen somehow as less. And that's not just a female and male interaction thing. I think that's society as a whole. So I'm going to be talking about that at the very end of the show. I also wanted to share this with you before we get cracking, there's a bit of me that's got a really sick and twisted and black sense of humor, wanted to point at this and say, taking the piss or whatever. But a road worker run over while taking a urine break under a lorry. Coroner has issued a safety warning after a road worker was run over while urinating between the axles of a grab lorry on a resurfacing job. Apparently the guy, who is called Thomas Joseph Macaulay, was needed to urinate during the morning, stood between the third and fourth axles of a 4-axle 32-ton grab lorry to answer the call of nature. The driver was unaware of his presence, moved the grab lorry forward a short distance at low speed, causing him catastrophic and fatal injuries. Now, I think the idea of issuing, I've said this so many times, I'm kind of bored with me saying it. Every accident, every near miss, every fatality should be a learning opportunity. How does that guy's family feel that that's how he went? I'm not entirely sure that the details were necessary, or is that just me? I'd love to hear from you. Who else do we have here? We've got Gaz, the model human. If you know what I mean, that is the mighty Gaz Evans. Steve Williamson is here, and yesterday's birthday boy. Ken, did you know you shared a birthday with Lou Carney? Because you do, apparently. It is time to crack on, I think. We'll come back to all of the nonsense at the end of the show, but we need to do a bit of this first off. Belated happy birthday message to Lou Carney from Gary Muirhead. Indeed, I will echo that. So where are we today? Yes, it is Tuesday, the 13th of August. Welcome to the Breakfast Show. I am your host, Mark Anthony, the Walrus of Demolition. In today's show, Nicol of Skene goes platinum with JCB. We're going old school with a vintage Cat D7E. We're going large with a mighty Hitachi EX 8000-7, and HS2 completes an impressive viaduct deck slide. It's a good film on that. Plus, in the news, In the news discussion portion of the show, we will be discussing why blue-collar workers are so greatly undervalued, and believe me, they are. But before we get to all of that, I do need to show you today's mystery machine. Now, today's one is distinctive but unusual. I'll leave that hanging in the air. Let me show it to you. There you are. That is what you're working with so far today. I'm looking for a make and a model, if you would be so kind. Leave that for a little bit longer, just while I'm checking the chat. Who's that? Chris Ford. My dark sense of humor has kicked in, but in respect, I'll keep it to myself. I was thinking exactly the same thing. And Dan Carney saying, belated happy birthday to the beautiful Lulu Carney. Yes, indeed. Now, Ken Hatcher, straight off the mark with what our mystery machine is. He reckons it's a JCB Army Digger. Could be, but that's not what it's called. That's what we need. That is what we need. We need a make and a model, if you would be so kind. Spent the whole day with Derek Nicol and the crew at Black Isle Show. It was a great day. Really nice people, top-notch company. With a few Ditch Witch drilling machines. They have the biggest that Ditch Witch do. Some nice excavators too. We'll get onto them in just a moment, actually. But let me show you today's. I need to play a thing, don't I? We do this first. Yeah, Excavator World Cup. Let me take that away and I'll show you who we've got in contention today. I have a funny feeling I know which way this is going to go. Today is HIMAC taking on XCMG. Now, obviously, HIMAC not around any longer. XCMG, third biggest manufacturer in the world. However, one's Chinese. One has a real nostalgia value. I have a funny feeling this could well go to HIMAC, but don't let me influence you. That's what I'd like to hear from you. So that is exactly what I need you to do. Go over to the chat and either type HIMAC, HYMAC, or type XCMG. Place your votes. And straight away, Gary Muirhead is in there. With one photograph or one frame of a photograph, it's game over. Game over. Let's have a look. Several people got it. But the first, I can tell you, Ken Hatcher. Ken Hatcher has got some points on the board. And just to prove that he's not completely mental, there you are. It is the JCB HMEE, or is it HMME? I think it is. It's a high mobility engineer excavator from JCB. It is a military backhoe loader. Well spotted, Ken. Yeah, as Gary said. Well done, Ken. Yeah, you've got your first points on the board there, Ken. So let me put a KH against that. 3 points. So yeah, the competition is hotting up. Well done, that man. Let me take that away. Going back to our Excavator World Cup. Ken Hatcher is going with HIMAC. Gary Muirhead going with HIMAC. To balance things slightly, XCMG, HIMAC didn't keep up. Yep, they didn't, but there is that real nostalgia feeling, isn't there? So keep the guesses coming, keep the votes coming in. We are equal. We have 2 votes for HIMAC and we have 2 votes for XCMG. Steve Williamson says, XCMG, nice cab and powerful machine. I pick that over the HIMAC any day for obvious reasons. The very fact that it was built in this century would be a pretty good reason. The reason Ken Hatcher spotted the HMEE from JCB, I remember standing next to it at Con Expo in Las Vegas. That would be a good reason to remember it. Much the same as the what do they call that big telehandler, the Trackzilla? I saw that at Con Expo. I remember exactly. I could even tell you what I was wearing on that day. Same thing. I normally wear a t-shirt and a silly hat, but yeah, you get the idea. So let's crack on. We've already solved the mystery machine. I just need some more votes, please, on the Excavator World Cup. Are you going with HIMAC or are you going with XCMG? We've got, as I say, 2 votes in favour of both. I don't want to have to intervene, but I will if necessary. So please, you put my name up, Lou. Not sure what that means. So it's now 3-2 to XCMG. Jonathan Duras, thank you very much indeed for joining us. Thank you for your vote. We'll come back to all that stuff and nonsense in just a moment because we do need to crack on. I promised you a visit to Nicol of Skene. You shall have that just after this. Hey, you might remember when myself and Fred last went up to JCB, we were talking about all things backhoe loaders, and we were talking about the Platinum Edition backhoe loader. Well, they're in Scotland.
Nicol of Skene is a business, family owned, started back in 1980. 115 employees now. We cover all aspects of civil engineering. It was my decision thinking for balance and weight we would look at a 4-6. JCB announced they were launching a 70th anniversary and I thought, I want one of them. The operator that's on it's been with me 10 years. The last 3 weeks I think he's had the machine. He's just over the moon with the capabilities of what it can do.
Derek asked me a few days after I had it, what do you think? I said it's an absolutely brilliant machine. The servo handles in this machine are very smooth, very comfortable to work, very precise and very quick as well.
Having the rotor tilt Acorn hitch on the back has just made their job so much simpler.
Because you can turn the bucket in towards the buildings and turn your way back, so you're actually not having to actually move the machine itself.
You've got the capability that you can carry material in the front bucket, you can carry pallets, but you can still do something with the back at the same time. We don't actually need an auxiliary dump truck to come and take material. He can go and take buckets in, drop and then turn round and spread quite easily.
With the automatic gearbox as well, it's so much quicker. I can go from this site to another site, no low loader having to come in, and the actual speed of the new ones as well with the 40k box is an unbelievable difference. Sometimes this site can be quite tight, especially around the houses, but I feel very confident to be working that machine around other people on machinery. I would say the backhoes are essential on this site. There's a lot of material to be moved. If you had a track machine, it would be very slow to track around this site, as it's such a large site. So the backhoes are essential for speed and for transporting material even.
Dealership and backup service is key. We've found maybe in the last few years that's been a massive change. We've seen competitive dealerships struggling to back up. Hence why I believe working with Scots, working with JCB, yeah, they're key because they're at our doorstep. You can pick the phone up and we'll have a fitter within 2 hours. If I got it, I would be delighted.
Just everything about it I like.
A fantastic looking machine. Didn't understand a word. Not got my Scottish head on. No, I did really. I thought that was very, very impressive. And I'm not alone, apparently. Great company, says Gary Muirhead. We used to use them at SSE for directional drilling cabling work. I saw it and wanted it. Yeah, imagine being in that position. Imagine being in that position. Oh, there's a 70th anniversary. Yeah, I fancy a piece of that. Jonathan Duras says, very versatile machines, the backhoes. I'm surprised they went out of fashion, especially in modern times. They're still hanging on, though, aren't they? I still think they are hanging on. Ken Hatcher says, keep the jacks tight on the JCB, cracking company, says Steve Williamson. Derek is a sound guy. What else have we got here? Dan Cullen, that's the correct way to travel. Boom in the middle, out the back on the road. Good setup, says Ken Hatcher. And yes, just to clarify, I said that Ken Hatcher had got the right answer while displaying Ken's answer on the screen. So I can rectify that right now. Where is it? It's here somewhere. There you are. That's Ken Hatcher's winning entry. That's what identified today's mystery machine. Well done, that man. Apparently, they are also, Nicol of Skene are also a big user of Steel Wrist. They too are a part of the Steel Wrist fan club north of the border. Thank you very much indeed for that, Gary. We're going to be back in just a moment with something a little more old school. I think you'll like it.
If you are enjoying this episode, please consider supporting the show. You can leave us a tip at buymeacoffee.com/demolition news.
So it is August, as you've probably gathered by now. So it is a bit of a quiet period for new product introductions. Also, we've got the promise of Bauma and ConExpo next year. I think it is Bauma and ConExpo next year. So I think a lot of companies are currently keeping their powder dry. So yesterday I went on a search for something a bit more old school to show you, and I came across this. Very nice too. I'm going to work my way back up from the bottom of the chat because there's a bit that I want to address. Nice seeing classic machines still working. Totally agree. Gary Muirhead, 100%. Some skill to be able to use a wire rope dozer blade. Top job indeed. Ken Hatcher has clarified. ConExpo is in 2026 in Las Vegas. 2026, not 2025, as I said. And Ken apparently is saving up. Think about saving up and going in 2026. All things being equal, my friend, I will be there too. Cheap muck shifting, says Jim Turner. Where are we? Good job it's not raining with that dozer. No, quite. Let's have a look. There was something else here. Yeah, there's Dan Cullen saying, oh, nice old girl. I'm sure he meant the machine and not me. Vintage porn. So two things on vintage porn. First of all, I am toying with the idea of doing, because it is a bit of a quiet period, I'm actually toying with the idea of doing a show dedicated to some old kit. If I can find enough decent footage of old kit, I might do a vintage machine show as well. But vintage porn, I don't want to give away my viewing habits too much. But when I was a lad, I say a lad, I was probably in my 20s. There was a porn star called Ginger Lynn. Do you remember Ginger Lynn? I remember thinking, in the nicest possible way, well, she's way, way, way too gorgeous to be in porn. And yet she was. Don't know how it came up, but it was on YouTube yesterday. Somebody's done an interview with her as she is now. The years have not been kind. This once beautiful blonde creature is now like a mum. Not great. Let's have a look. I think the pizzas would be a lot different than the mayonnaise can. Yeah, could well be right. Do get a decent pizza in Vegas, though, I have to say. We've just done old school. I'm going to do something a bit more recent in just a second. I'll be back after this. Sorry. Morning, Garvin. He just said more tracks, less basques and clasps, Mark. It just occurred to me when Gary Muirhead said about vintage porn, it just came into my head. And Chris Ford is of the same mind. I can see the show has turned the corner again. Mary Millington comes to mind. Mary Millington. Do you know, here's a slightly odd thing, and I'm not going to dwell on it because it's nothing to do with the show. When I was a kid, a proper kid, barely a teenager, you used to happen upon porn magazines as a child. Mary Millington was always in them, advertising some movie or other that she was in. I have never ever seen a Mary Millington film. Feel like I need to pop back and refresh. My vintage porn memories was Confessions of a Window Cleaner. Yeah, how many times did Robin Asquith get his ass out on TV? Am I not going to the demo awards in Rome? No, I'm not. I'm not. I am kind of barred. Yeah, very quickly, I'll tell you the story. So I went to a World Demolition Awards in Amsterdam, many years ago, and took a video camera. Filmed the awards and was asked by the host of the awards, "What are you doing?" I said, "Well, filming things so I can put it." I'm not sure we're happy about that. So I said, "Well, it's too late. I've done it, and I'm here for justifiable reasons," and so on down the line. Anyway, came back about a week later. He phoned me up and he said, "Look, I think I overreacted. How about next time you come and you shoot film again, but this time we'll share it on our platform?" I said, "Yeah, absolutely dandy." 11 months then transpired, and I called him up and I said, "I've not heard from you." He said, "No, we'd rather you didn't come." So that was me done with the World Demolition Awards. So yes, I'm not going to Rome. That's not strictly true. I am planning to go to Rome in the not too distant future, just not for that. That's a whole other story. So yes, I promised you something a bit more new school. Obviously, in about 5 3/4 weeks, I'm off to Las Vegas. Surprising how often that comes up. I'm off to Las Vegas for the Mine Expo show. And I have been spending quite a bit of time kind of girding my mining loins because I don't know that much about mining. So I've been digging around trying to find some reference points on major equipment. And I found just the thing. Have a look at this. What a beast. What an absolute beast that is. Absolutely fantastic looking machine. I'm going to be back right after this with something HS2 related.
Since the finance bill came into effect in April, the construction industry has seen a surge of fuel thefts. The rising cost of living has placed an additional risk of theft by employees and contractors, as well as opportunistic thieves. By using diesel dye and placing warnings of its use, you are sending a clear message that this is your fuel.
Our friend Mr. Doris enjoying the Hitachi. Dan Cullen also enjoying it. Says, nice, but get monotonous after a bit, though. But imagine where you're sat. You pretty much own the world behind the levers of one of those. It's funny, you don't really associate big mining equipment with Hitachi. No, you don't, but you probably should. You probably should. Oh, the Mafia kiss. Wonder you didn't wake up with a horse's head next to you. Wonder what they wanted to hide. They didn't want to hide anything. I think it was the World Demolition Awards is hosted by a rival publishing company, and I think the thing that they got arsey about was the fact that I'd already made the jump to video, and they hadn't. They've since kind of come on board, but I mean they do virtually nothing. So yes, I think it was the fact that I'd stolen a bit of a march on them. I think that's exactly what it was. Yes. What did I say? Oh yeah, HS2. I guess it's tempting to think that after Rishi Sunak put the kibosh on the Birmingham to Manchester leg, that everything on HS2 had stopped. Far from it. Check this out. I've timed that video because it kind of plays into the bit I want to talk about after the show. Just incredible engineering, and yet it's engineering that is kind of looked down upon in some respects. What are we saying in the chat? Great bit of time-lapse photography. Totally agrees, Chris. The big white elephant is still raking up the cost of the taxpayer. It is. Yeah, it is. And we're not done yet. Obviously, we've got to close all those sites. I can tell you, Dan Cullen just said, some work setting that up. Indeed, there was. So, the latest round of our Excavator World Cup competition pitted HIMAC against XCMG, but which brand came out on top? Well, we put it to the public vote, and I can tell you that the winner is... It's XCMG. XCMG goes forward to the second round, while HIMAC leaves empty-handed, in much the same way that they left the construction industry whenever they did that. Tomorrow's match will be Link Belt of the USA taking on Hydromek of Turkey. So make sure you tune in for that part. Yes, hold that thought about engineering excellence and the contribution of blue-collar workers, because I'm going to be talking about that in just a moment. Steve Williamson says XCMG, obvious winner. Yeah, I have to be honest, I was expecting it to go the other way. I thought the mix of sentimentality, nostalgia, and anti-Chinese sentiment might have taken it in the other direction. It didn't, and I think that's probably right and proper. So XCMG, forward to the next round. I'm going to be back with you in just a moment with my daily nonsense. I'd like to take a moment to consider the world around us, the roads we drive on, the buildings we work in, the food on our tables, and the energy that powers our homes. These everyday necessities, the very fabric of our lives, are the product of hard work, sweat, and dedication. But how often do we stop to appreciate the hands that built them? I'm talking about the blue-collar workers, the men and women who work in demolition, construction, agriculture, mining, and countless other essential industries. These workers are the backbone of our society, yet they are often underappreciated, overlooked, and undervalued. Blue-collar workers are the builders of our world, quite literally. In the construction and demolition sectors, they lay the foundations of our cities and our towns, erect the buildings that define our skylines, and dismantle old structures to make way for new developments. Every office building, school, hospital, and I'll do that again. Every office building, school, hospital, and home exists because of their labour. They work long hours, often in dangerous conditions, to ensure that our communities have safe places to live, work, and gather. But how often do we actually acknowledge their contributions? How often do we think about the labourers toiling in the heat, the cold, and the rain to make sure a project is completed on time? The truth is, I think, we take their work for granted. We enjoy the comfort and convenience of modern life without giving much thought to the people that made it possible. Think about that from a purely demolition and construction standpoint. These industries, quite obviously, are not for the faint of heart. They require physical strength, endurance, and a high tolerance for risk. Construction workers work at dizzying heights, operate heavy machinery, and work with hazardous materials, all while adhering to strict deadlines and even more strict regulations. Demolition workers face similar challenges with the added responsibility of safely dismantling structures that are often unstable and dangerous. Despite the vital importance of their work, these workers are hugely underappreciated. They're viewed as expendable, replaceable, as if their skills and expertise can be easily swapped out. Yet without them, our cities would crumble, our infrastructure would collapse, and our way of life would be unsustainable. So why are blue-collar workers so underappreciated? Part of the issue, I think, lies in societal values. In many cultures, white-collar jobs, those that require a college degree and involve working in office, are just seen as more prestigious. The narrative is that success is measured by how far someone can distance themselves from manual labour. Personally, I think that perspective is deeply flawed. It ignores the fact that blue-collar work is not only necessary, but also requires a high level of skill, knowledge, and dedication. Another factor, I think, is the lack of visibility. Blue-collar workers often operate behind the scenes. Their work is crucial, but it's not always seen. We notice when a building is completed, but we don't see the countless hours of labour that went into building it. We enjoy the convenience of electricity, but we don't think about the miners who risk their lives to extract the coal or other materials to power those plants. That invisibility contributes to the lack of appreciation of their work. There's also an economic component to this underappreciation. Despite the importance of their blue-collar work, blue-collar workers are often underpaid compared to their white-collar counterparts. The physical demands and risks of their job are not reflected in this compensation. This economic disparity further diminishes the perceived value of their work and contributes to a cycle of undervaluation. It's time for a change in how we view and value blue-collar workers. We should recognise and celebrate the essential role they play in our society and in our economy. This recognition should go beyond words. It should be reflected in fair wages, safer working conditions, and opportunities for advancement. We also need to challenge the societal norms that devalue manual labour. There is honour in all work, whether it's done in an office or on a construction site, in a field or in a mine. We should teach our children to respect all professions and understand that every job has value. It's time to change the narrative. Let's give blue-collar workers the recognition and respect they deserve. Let's appreciate the skill, dedication, and hard work they bring to their jobs every single day. And let's ensure that their contributions are not only acknowledged, but celebrated as well. After all, without them, the world as we know it would cease to function. Now, just one more thing that I want to mention before we jump back into the chat. At the height of the COVID pandemic, people took to the streets to applaud the doctors and nurses that were toiling in such horrendous circumstances. We applauded them for helping keep us alive. Now, I'm not for one moment suggesting that people should take to the streets and applaud demolition and construction workers, nor am I comparing demolition work with saving lives. But in some ways, both demolition and construction, and mining, quarrying, farming, fishing, make lives possible. I think it's high time that the workers in these sectors receive the acknowledgement they so richly deserve. So, am I farting against thunder, or do we have some agreement? What have we got here? Chris, thought you were going to give a sermon when you first started. If I gave a sermon, Chris, trust me, the Lord above would ensure that I was struck down with lightning and I would burst into flames before your very eyes. Jonathan Doris, back to the Excavator World Cup. HIMAC are a nice classic, but they're no longer about, where XCMG are just arriving on the scene, especially in the UK market. Dead right. We do a lot of road building. I always say, once the road is tarred, no one knows the work that's been done under the road. It's very true. It's very true. I mentioned I was talking to a guy in the States yesterday. He will be on the show at some point, but I was talking to him, and one of the things that I was talking about was when I wrote the two children's books that I co-wrote. My dad does demolition and my dad drives a digger, and I was invited to a school, or a number of schools actually, to go and give readings and talk to the kids about the books and the content therein. And a lot of the children were asking about, what exactly is demolition and what is construction. And I was trying to explain, and I ended up saying, literally, you see this classroom, chances are something was here before, it was demolished, and then something else was built in its place. The home you live in, that was probably something else in the past, but that was demolished, and your house was built. And the road that you come to on your way to school, that was built, and so on down the line. And you could see like the dawning realization, hey, these construction wallers, they do a pretty good job, don't they? Academia has always been seen as being a cut above the practical world, and maybe in the past wages reflected this, but now we probably make more than most university graduates, and we've earned for longer. Have no student debt. Yeah, I mentioned this at the top of the show. I don't know if everyone was there. The guy that I was talking to, Chayton, over in the States, was saying, if a guy walks into a bar, there's a woman, they get to talking. If he says, I'm a doctor or a lawyer, I think there is a subconscious thing that says, he's successful. He'll be earning a few quid. He'll probably have a nice car and a nice home. When in actual fact, if you're talking about somebody in demolition or construction, if you own a demolition company, you're holding folding. You're doing okay, and the chances are your car might not be the fastest, but I bet it's every bit as expensive as the doctors or the lawyers. And you think about the amount of money that's tied up into equipment. I've got a £100,000 Porsche, says the lawyer. I've got a £500,000 excavator here. It's no comparison, but there is that perception, isn't there? Let's have a look. Gary Muirhead. We are not the main characters, but the extras in the background. But without us, the show can't go on. Dead right. Chris Ford says there was a sketch years ago, John Cleese, Ronnie Barker, and Ronnie Corbett, which is very true. Yes, I look up to him, and I look down on him, and yes, I remember that very well. Just going to say good morning to Mick Norton because he's just arrived. June Turner says the Mrs. Auntie is always bragging about her son because he went to university and is a teacher. She was quite shocked when bragging how much he earns to find out he's on a damn sight less than me. Works more hours than me too. Yeah. I mean, I currently share a house with a teacher. She works all the hours that God sends her. Yes, I mean, she's on holiday at the moment, but she puts in a proper graft and she earns 2/3 of sweet FA. Steve says, as long as the top get their bonus, we're just minions that know F all. Very true. Yeah, very true. But again, and I know that these conversations tend to go full circle. I've mentioned schools, and we've mentioned earnings and stuff like that. There is, I think, a very clear perception among young people. If I want to earn proper money, I've got to be a footballer or possibly a YouTuber or a cryptocurrency trader or whatever it might be. But setting all those ridiculous ambitions aside, if you actually are somebody of 11, 12, 13 years old, they probably say, oh, doctor, lawyer, accountant, all of these highfalutin jobs. When, as Jim Turner rightly pointed out, you can skip all of the university, and in the case of doctors and lawyers, what is that, 4, 5, 6 years at university, plus all the student debt that goes with it, you finally get to earning, assuming you go straight from school, you start earning in your mid-20s, whereas somebody in demolition or construction has been earning for potentially 7, 8 years by that point. They've got no student debt, and absolutely for me, I think people need to realise, precisely as Gary has just said, we're not the main characters. We're the extras in the background, but without us, the show can't go on. That is so true. As I say, we got awfully excited about the nurses, and don't get me wrong, I think the nurses did a magnificent job. They do every day. They did so particularly in the midst of all things COVID related. But they were applauded for keeping people alive. Construction workers make life possible. Farmers make life possible. Offshore fishermen make life possible. Miners, those working in offshore and onshore oil production and coal production, they make life possible, and yet for some reason looked down upon. And I do wonder if that's a thing that is universal. I remember having a conversation with a guy in the States, a different guy in the States, funnily enough, and we were talking about how people's success is perceived. And I think we've discussed this before. One of the things that we're very bad at over here is demeaning success. If your boss arrived in a brand new Lamborghini, oh, look at that. I mean, the clients would be, oh, I'm paying for that. Those that work for him would be looking at it and, oh, he's earning a fortune and I'm earning soddle and stuff. In America, you turn up in a Lamborghini and it's like, wow, that guy. The client looks at it and says, they've sent the big boy to see me. That's impressive. And the worker's like, yeah, I aspire to that. I want a piece of that. I want a Lamborghini or whatever it might be. What we got here? Mick Norton, too late for the vote. HIMAC for me, 580 or 590. Happy days, though always a bit of play on the levers. Well, it came down to the wire, but it was an XCMG decision, I'm afraid. Well, I tell you what, I'm gonna throw this over because we've still got, I don't know, some people in the chat. Got a thing here from, and this is not a big audience, obviously, but I'm going to throw this over. Garvin over on Instagram has just said, I'd love an honest survey of how many construction workers want their children, nieces, nephews to get into construction. While some would heavily encourage this, I bet it's far from the minority. So we have the people in the chat. I'd like you to type yes, I would encourage one of my offspring or a niece or a nephew into the industry, or no, I would not. Can you let me know? I'd love to hear from you. Jim Turner says kids are taught by academics, so they'll naturally promote academic jobs. It's just a natural way to promote what you do. Our industry needs to be going into schools or schools going to sites to show kids the practical jobs that are put there. I wonder about the economics about that as well. I do wonder about the economics of that, because surely the more people that are actively in employment, the more they are, the more tax they are paying into the national economy, the more money they are then spending on, food, drink, living, whatever it might be. I would have thought that it would be sensible for the government and local government to surely encourage more people into vocational, that you could literally, I'm 16 years old, I'm going to work on a construction site, rather than I'm 16. Oh, yes, go to college for a year. You've done a year in college, right? Now go to university for 3 years. That's 4 years. You're doing nothing for the nation. You would have thought that the balance would have been the other way around. No answers yet. Would you encourage a niece, nephew, son, daughter, granddaughter, grandson into construction? Love to hear from you. Mick Norton says, use the HIMAC 210 for anti-tank ditching in the 1980s in Germany. Formidable tool with unrivaled boom and dipper geometry. Mick Norton says, yes, I would encourage family members to join the sector, but with millennials, it's like eating custard with a fork. Fantastic. And Jim, well, this kind of, so far, we've only got 2 votes in, but I can tell you this goes against what Garvin was saying. Yes, I would encourage. My lad is already an apprentice plant operator, so he's gone into the family trade and is 3rd generation operator. I've encouraged my nephews into construction and now in Australia operating machines. So 3 out of 3 have said yes, they would encourage people into the industry. But I take your point, Garvin, and I do wonder about that. I think that there is that thing, what people say on the telly. You can't be what you can't see. And I know they tend to use that for showing more racial mix on TV, more gender mix in employment and stuff like that. But I think there is a degree of this. If you are the son, daughter, niece, nephew, granddaughter, grandson of somebody in construction, you have exposure. You are seeing what the industry has to offer. You have somewhere to go for advice. I'm thinking about a career in construction, and that advice might be do something else, or absolutely, if you do this, take this route, that might be the way forward. That's fantastic for those that have a family or a close friend that's already in the industry. Where we have an issue, I think, is attracting those that don't have that connection, that can't see what they might like to be. I mentioned in the chat earlier, a lot of what you guys do goes on behind the scenes. It's behind holdings, or if you're working on a road, the road is closed. So unless you're driving past particularly slowly, you're not going to see what goes into the construction of that road. That HS2 project that I showed you, fantastic piece of engineering, but that took place over 8 months. How many members of the general public saw that? How many children of school leaving age that are considering a career got to see that and thought, oh, now that does look a piece of me. I'll have a bit of that. Probably none. Jonathan Duras, if you've become successful in this country, you're soon hated, even if you started from the bottom and worked your way up. You're sort of put in the same boat as those who just use mummy's and daddy's money. You are. We have that nasty habit of building people up and then doing our level best to tear them back down again. And I don't understand it. I really don't. You think about it from, again, default to sporting arena. You think about the journey that David Beckham went on. He was the darling of the media because he married a Spice Girl. And he was probably our best player for quite some number of years. He was the England captain, and then he got sent off at the World Cup, and then it was, let's try and take him down, let's talk about potential affairs that he supposedly had, and so on down the line. And look at when he's come full circle and he's now considered a national treasure. I totally agree. I think he's a fantastic fella. Does a lot for charity, does a lot for communities and stuff. Fair play to him. But you imagine, when he first made it into the news headlines, he was, 18, 19 years old? Build him up. Too big, knock him down. What's that? What's that about? Why wouldn't we encourage people into this industry? It's great work and great money too. So, Garvin, it's a majority of people that would encourage people into the industry so far. Keeping construction in the family has just reminded me to check if the missus has finished the concreting. Are you sat with your feet up? I sincerely hope you're here. You are. Jonathan Dura says, spelling shite. Apologies. No apologies necessary. Listen, I'm well aware. I don't know about you, Jonathan, but I'm well aware that you guys are often typing this in a hurry on a mobile phone while working. I don't take it personally if you misspell things, if your grammar's all over the place. I do my level best to understand it, but please don't apologise. It's not necessary at all, because this is easy. I'm sat here. I've got a nice big keyboard in front of me. I've got a nice little mouse here. I've got a comfy seat. I can type and chat, and you guys are actually trying to do a job at the same time you're trying to interact with this old nonsense. So I know no need to apologise whatsoever. I think that's probably took that one out. Back again tomorrow for more of the same, if anybody would care to join us. I'm going to go over to Jim Turner first. That's exactly why our industry needs to go into schools. Apprenticeships and mentorships is the key to keeping our industry a skilled sector. Those apprentices can be picked from the kids that show a natural aptitude for the various trades. All this from site open days, or industry shows that schools attend. Couldn't agree more. No, absolutely. And I even wonder if there is scope for somebody with like a roving brief. I'm thinking from a demolitions perspective here. I'm going to make John Woodward. He's been on the show. Very, very well known, very well respected in the industry. He retired recently. He's just turned 70, so he's 99.9% retired. He still does a bit, but mostly retired. You would think that somebody would say, okay, you, Mr. Woodward, you were president of the Institute of Demolition Engineers. You've got all the awards. You've been Man of the Year, and you've got all of these things. You helped design the demolition degree and everything else. We are going to pay you X amount a year to tour schools or tour educational facilities, or even tour with teacher conferences, to actually get in front of teachers and say, it's all very well pointing people towards academia, and we do need our academics. Don't let's lose sight of that. But we need 3 million plus demolition and construction workers just to keep the wheels turning, just to build not enough homes, just to build just enough offices, just enough schools and hospitals. Pay somebody like a John Woodward to go out and preach the word of demolition and construction. Spread the word. Be an evangelist, a paid evangelist for the industry. Because I think at the moment, I agree 100% with everything that Jim Turner has just said. This idea of doing outreach to schools. The problem with that is that it's going to be disjointed. There will be some that do, some that don't, some that do it well, some that do it poorly, and it's all going to be localized. So if I ran a demolition company from here in Epsom, there's probably, I don't know, maybe a dozen schools around here. I'd do those, but who does the ones a bit further afield? And do they do it in the same way that I do it? Do they do it to the right degree? It's almost like it needs not a governmental department, because Christ alone knows that would be a chaos. But it just needs somebody to have the ear of government, have the ear of education, sit down and say, just think. And going back to my point, and I'm trying not to come across as, the guy cracking the whip and trying to fill the nation's coffers. But everybody that goes to university, everybody that goes to college, for a time, are a cost. They are a financial burden on the nation. Everybody that leaves school and goes into employment benefits the nation. Might be only small time. They might not be earning a great deal, but they'll be paying tax, they'll be paying national insurance, they will be spending their money in the local shops and online and stuff. They will be making a contribution to the national coffers. Surely, just from an economic standpoint alone, that would be good enough reason to encourage more people into the trades as we've described them. Jim Turner, imagine a county construction. Let me do this again. Imagine a county construction skills facility where local companies can send their tradesmen to demonstrate to school trips and let the kids have a go at doing it themselves. Once again, I find myself wanting Jim Turner to be given the job of construction minister. Why not? Why not? And when you think about that, a county construction skills facility, every county in this country probably has a demolition or a construction company that would actually already have a facility. It might be a workshop, it might be a head office, or whatever it might be. So, they volunteer themselves. We will, on a regular basis, we will host children from local schools, local colleges. We will do that. We'll get them involved. We'll get them to actually get hands-on, handle the material, handle the equipment, handle the tools. Jim, I salute you, my friend. For as long as the CLC, CS, CS, and CITB remain influential, it'll be a hell of a problem to spread a positive message. Yeah. And it's not just that I don't think they do a good job. That is the case. I don't think they do a good job. But I think there's also, they represent a buffer, a filter. You know, if using Jim's idea there of a county construction skills facility, if you have that facility and a child comes along, takes to it, you know, male or female, takes to it, I really fancy this. This is really, I've always liked working with my hands. You know, I'm forever stripping down my bicycle or whatever it might be. I want a piece of this. If you're doing that at industry level, so they've been to a demolition company or they've been to a construction company, that construction company or demolition company has demonstrated what they're all about, and that child says, I'd like a bit of that. There's no barrier. You know, either the company or the teacher can just say, okay, well, our advice is to go down this path or that path, or these are the steps that you need to follow. But you imagine going through CLC, CSCS, CITB, and all of the others. You've got to do this, and then you've got to do that, and then you've got to do this, and you've got to do that. You've got to pay for this card. You've got to attend this course. You've got to do this. You've got to attend that. Even if I've completely bitten, even if I've been bitten by the demolition construction bug, I'm looking at the format that CLC, CSCS, and CITB put in place and going, do you know what? That looks like really hard work. I think I could do something else. We've at a time of an enormous and growing skill shortage, we have, as an industry, allowed obstacles to be put in the way. Makes no sense at all, does it? Let's have a look. Mick Norton, back in the day, CITB had a plethora of regional offices which could engineer all the sector problems we are discussing. Then the business managers appeared and it all went to ratchet. Yeah. I vote for Jim and Mick too. Be our Billy Graham voice for the industry. Yes, we could do with a bit of Billy Graham. Jim Turner says kids need help to get into our industry, not a barrier to stop them. 100%. 100%. F. Castman over on Instagram. He's talking about an implosion, but I don't know. He may have sent me a message. I don't know. I haven't seen it yet, but I'll translate what you've said and I'll get to you after the show, which is kind of now-ish. Yeah, I think that pretty much wraps it up. I've just had a message from Gary Muirhead, I think. Don't know where that went. Was that an email? No, it's a LinkedIn. Just want to make sure it's nothing that I need to do here and now. Right. Okay. Yes. Gary and funny enough, Steve Williamson earlier on today actually sent me a brief video of a Caterpillar pickup truck. Now I've seen this on social media the past 2 weeks. I'm not entirely convinced it's real, but let me see if I can bear with. If I share my screen and I go to here and I press the play button here, you should be able to see this. As I say, I think this is an AI creation. I've seen nothing from Caterpillar to say they've entered the pickup truck market, but this is the video that's doing the rounds at the moment. If anybody knows any more, please let me know.
Exactly. Let's dive into the fascinating world of the 2025 Caterpillar pickup truck, where raw power meets precision engineering. URZ Overview. The 2025 Caterpillar pickup truck is not just a vehicle. It's a testament to ruggedness, innovation, and determination. Imagine a beast that roars over rocky terrain, laughs in mud puddles, and flexes its muscles like a heavyweight champion. This 2025 Cat pickup is a combination of heavy-duty construction expertise and off-road prowess. Character, power and performance. Fasten your seatbelts because this truck is serious. Under the bonnet, you'll find a monster engine that makes a mockery of ordinary pickups. It fuels like a thirsty marathon runner, but it's worth every drop. Whether you're hauling lumber, towing a trailer, or just showing off in the local car, the 2025 Cat pickup gets the job done. Torque? It has more torque than a Hurricane, enough to move mountains, or at least a small.
You get the idea. As I say, well, Jonathan Doris has already said, let me see, he said, it's that one. That one, there we are. Yes, I've seen it. Cat have said it's AI. That was my feeling, even down to the fact that, you know, the voiceover is clearly an AI, because it refers to talk as torque, which is complete nonsense. Would be nice though, wouldn't it? And I know, where's that going wrong? What have we got here? Shame, looks nice though. I totally agree. Gary Muirhead says, I wonder if it only comes in cat yellow. Funnily enough, I've actually seen it in red. And one of the other giveaways on this, I don't know if you noticed it, but some of the imagery is actually back to front. The cat logo appears back to front. So I think somebody has created a video and then other people have copied it and reversed it to make it look like their own. That's my belief. Who can name the Minister for Construction? Not me. But with a quick Google search, Sarah Jones. Sarah Jones. Yes, I know exactly what she looks like. Not at all. Yeah, apparently Sarah Jones. Jim Turner says, no, me and neither, Mick. Why isn't Construction Minister all over LinkedIn telling us trades how they're going to help us and keep us in work? I'm not entirely sure they want the interaction that we would be offering, to be honest. Mike Wolf says, morning, Mike. I've seen the video too. Honestly, I think it's hideous. The load bed isn't very big. Not for me, thanks. Yeah, well, on the basis it probably doesn't even exist. I'm fairly sure it doesn't even exist. I don't think you've got anything to worry about there. But can you imagine if Caterpillar did actually go into the pickup business? May not sell too many outside of the US, but they would shift a shit ton in America, wouldn't they? You imagine, you know, your good old boy, and I'm not saying that to decry them. Your good old boy from down south. I've got myself a pickup. What you got? I've got the cat. Dan Cullen says, have a great day, lads. He's getting back to it. I think that should pretty much round things out for us as well, because I was going to stop this at 55 minutes. An hour and 3 minutes now, so I'm going to call it a day, people. I'll be back tomorrow for more of the same. We will have another round. I will show you this. Going back to Sarah Jones, the construction minister. If she's thin-skinned, she could turn the comments off. Not much point in doing LinkedIn if you turn the comments off, really, is there? Right, there will be another round of our Excavator World Cup tomorrow. We'll also have a new mystery machine for you to devise. And Jim, don't worry, I'd already filled in the gaps. So everybody go away, go and have a good day, go and enjoy yourselves. Don't bother ordering a cat pickup because I don't think they exist. Chris Ford says bye-bye. I'm going to say exactly the same. See you tomorrow, people. Have a good day. All the best.